The factory floor was alive with the roar of machines, but Malik Adeyemi barely noticed. His hands trembled slightly, not from fatigue, but from the weight of last night's sleepless worry. Bills were piling up. His daughter's school fees were due. And now he had to prove once again that 14 years of silent dedication weren't meaningless. A spark flickered on the conveyor belt. Malik leaned in, adjusting the pressure gauge with precise movements. A jam here could ruin hours of work, maybe even get someone hurt. He straightened the lever, wiped sweat from his brow, and the belt hummed again. He whispered to himself, almost inaudibly, "Not today. Not on my watch." "Malik, can you help me with line 3? A junior worker called," voice shaking. "I don't want to mess this up." Malik glanced over, offering a quick, reassuring nod. "Watch the gauge. If it dips below 15, adjust slowly. Don't rush it." The young worker returned to his post, and Malik went back to his station, grease-streaked hands careful on the controls. In another life, this would have been just another day, but tension hung thick in the air. Something was coming. From the far side of the factory, the clack of polished shoes on concrete announced Victor's replacement. Derek Langford, crisp suit, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp. The hum of machines didn't drown out his voice. He stopped at the center of the floor, scanning production lines, tapping his clipboard impatiently. "The output is down 10% from last week," Derek barked, tone sharp, echoing through the hall. 10%. Does anyone understand what that means for profit? "Yes, sir," a supervisor muttered nervously, glancing toward Malik. Derek's piercing gaze landed on Malik. He didn't say anything yet, just stared, calculating. Malik kept adjusting his station, checking pressure, tightening bolts. He didn't flinch. He didn't speak. He just worked. A co-worker leaned in and whispered, "He's looking at you. Just be careful." Malik muttered under his breath, "I've done my part." Derek straightened his tie and stepped closer to Malik's station. The machine's hum seemed louder, sharper, almost threatening. He bent down, eyes on Malik's hands, then slowly back up to his face. His expression was unreadable, but there was a dangerous edge there. "You've been here 14 years, right?" Derek asked coldly. "Yes, sir," Malik replied softly. Derek's mouth twitched, perhaps a smile, perhaps a sneer. 14 years. And yet, the production numbers are dropping. Someone's clearly failing to keep up. Malik felt a chill. He knew exactly what Derek meant. He also knew he hadn't failed. The machine had been acting up for days, and he had slowed it slightly to prevent a jam, just as he always did. Derek's gaze lingered. Malik straightened, met his eyes, calm but resolute. Derek seemed to misread it as arrogance or weakness. "Let's see if your work ethic matches your years here," Derek said, voice sharp. "If not," he let the threat hang. Malik's chest tightened. Around him, co-workers pretended not to notice, but everyone felt the tension. And in that moment, Malik realized this quiet worker who had saved machines' time and even co-workers' safety was about to be singled out. Malik stepped forward, his heart thudding in his chest like the machines around him. The factory noise seemed to fade, leaving only Derek's cold gaze locked on him. Workers watched silently, shifting uneasily, pretending not to see the storm about to hit. "Malik," Derek said, voice cutting through the air, "explain why your line is behind schedule. Right now." Malik swallowed, fighting the lump in his throat. He had expected this, and yet the sting of unfairness hit hard. "Sir, the machine has been misaligned for days. I slowed the line to prevent a jam." Derek's hand shot up, cutting him off. "I don't want excuses. I want results. If you can't keep up, you're useless." The words landed like a hammer. Around him, the hum of machines felt suddenly oppressive. Malik's chest tightened, not from fear, but from the injustice of it. He had given 14 years of dedication, and it all came down to this public humiliation. A few workers shifted nervously, glancing at each other, but no one spoke. Malik realized just how alone he was in this moment. The quiet man, always dependable, always unnoticed, now under the harshest scrutiny of all. "Security!" Derek snapped. 2 guards appeared instantly. stepping forward with silent authority. Escort him out. Malik froze for half a heartbeat, then drew himself upright. His hands were steady, but inside he felt the twist of helplessness tighten. "Sir, please, I'm only trying to prevent a problem." "No." Derek barked. "Enough. You're fired. Effective immediately." The guards moved in. Malik's lunchbox clutched in one hand. He allowed himself a last glance around the floor. His co-workers looked down at their shoes, pretending not to witness the injustice. But Malik noticed a flicker of shame in some eyes. He would remember that. As they let him out, Malik's mind raced. Bills unpaid. His daughter waiting at home. 14 years of work. Gone in minutes. Yet he also felt something else. A spark of resolve. He would survive this. Somehow, he had to. Outside, the factory gates loomed large and indifferent. Malik stepped into the bright sunlight, the roar of machinery now behind him, but still echoing in his mind. The city street felt overwhelming. People passed without noticing the man who had just been humiliated, fired in front of dozens. The injustice stung sharper than the early morning chill. He found a quiet spot near the sidewalk, leaning against a brick wall. A bus rumbled by, shaking the pavement. Malik closed his eyes briefly, gathering himself. He had no plan yet, only the knowledge that the world didn't recognize his worth. But then his phone buzzed. A message from the junior worker. "Malik, the line's acting up. Machines are overheating. Management isn't doing anything." Malik's chest tightened again. It wasn't just his life at stake anymore. The factory, the people he had quietly protected for years, were now in real danger. Derek's negligence might cost more than jobs. It could cost lives. The weight of it hit him like a cold wave. He had been forced out, humiliated publicly. And yet the problem he had worked to prevent was escalating. He couldn't just walk away. Not this time. Malik looked back toward the factory, the outline of the building cutting sharply against the sky. Something deep inside him stirred. A mix of anger, responsibility, and determination. Malik didn't hesitate. He turned sharply, heading back toward the factory despite the chill biting at his face. His mind raced, thoughts colliding. I shouldn't be here, but if something goes wrong, people could get hurt, and I can't let that happen. Inside, the factory felt different. Machines whined, belts jerked, and sparks flickered at odd intervals. The hum of the floor was tense, almost frantic. Workers moved faster than usual, their faces tight with worry. Malik's heart sank. This wasn't a normal slowdown. Something serious was brewing. He ducked behind a support beam, watching unnoticed. Derek Langford was pacing. Phone pressed his ear, brow furrowed. Supervisors hovered, whispering numbers and frantic instructions. Pressures rising on line 5. Someone fix it now. Derek barked. A junior worker glanced over at Malik, eyes wide with fear and hope. He slowed the line last week, like you said. Now it's overheating. What do we do? Malik clenched his fists. He had anticipated this. The machine he had carefully maintained was now pushed past its safe limits. If it failed, it wouldn't just halt production. It could cause a dangerous fire, maybe worse. He moved quickly but cautiously toward the control panel. A spark popped near his feet. His lungs tightened, and he felt a rush of adrenaline. He had no authority here, and yet the responsibility fell squarely on him. Why isn't anyone shutting this down? He muttered under his breath. Derek barked at a supervisor. Check the output numbers. Don't stop for anything. We can't afford delays. The supervisor froze, fear clear in his eyes. Malik knew that voice hesitation, but no one dared challenge Derek. The workers were trapped between safety and the boss's wrath. Malik realized this wasn't just about the machines anymore. It was about people. Every second the line ran unchecked. The risk grew. His stomach twisted. He whispered, I should have warned them. I should have stayed. A loud clang echoed from line 3. Sparks flew higher than before, and a hiss of steam filled the air. Workers screamed and ducked, chaos erupting. Malik's stomach dropped. If the machine blows, someone could get seriously hurt. Derek spun around, furious. What the hell was that? Who's responsible? Malik's gaze met a junior worker's pleading eyes. The kid knew Malik was the only one who could fix it. The responsibility pressed down on him like a weight he couldn't ignore. Malik stepped forward, hands shaking slightly but mind focused. "Stop the line. Now!" he shouted, voice cutting through chaos. "Before someone gets hurt." Derek froze, stunned. Nobody spoke. The factory felt like it was holding its breath. Workers glanced at Malik, then at Derek, unsure whose authority mattered more, the man who built safety into machines or the boss who wielded fear like a weapon. Malik moved toward the main switch, eyes darting at sparks and overheating machinery. Every step he took felt heavy, like he was walking into a trap, but he couldn't turn back. A sudden loud bang echoed through the factory, metal twisted, alarms blaring. The smell of burning oil filled the air. Workers scrambled, some pushing back against Derek's orders, others frozen in terror. Derek's voice rose, cracking over the chaos. "Who's doing this? Who dare stop my line?" Malik's heart pounded. The factory was on the brink of disaster. Every second counted. Malik froze, hand hovering over the emergency shutoff. Sparks danced dangerously close, heat prickling his face. The factory felt like it had turned into a cage. He could hear the alarms, the panic shouts of workers, and Derek's voice cutting through it all. Before he could make a move, a deep, authoritative voice echoed across the floor. "Everyone, step back. Now." Malik blinked. A group of people in crisp suits appeared near the entrance. Corporate auditors. They carried clipboards, cameras, and calm authority, immediately commanding attention. Derek's jaw tightened. "What is this?" he demanded. "We're running a line inspection." One of the auditors, a woman with sharp eyes, didn't flinch. "We were sent to review production and safety records." "Step aside, please." Malik exhaled slowly, stepping back from the main switch. The auditors moved efficiently, inspecting machines, checking gauges, and reviewing logs. Workers looked between Derek and the auditors, hope and fear flickering on their faces. Malik realized this could be the turning point, but only the auditors asked the right questions. The lead auditor glanced at a clipboard. "Who has been responsible for daily maintenance on these machines?" she asked, voice calm but commanding. Derek's eyes narrowed. "That's old information. The person responsible no longer works here," he replied, forcing a tight smile. "Then we'll need to review their records." The auditor said firmly, "Every report, every note, everything submitted in the past 6 months." Malik's stomach twisted. They were going to see everything. The meticulous logs he had kept for years. Every warning, every small adjustment, every note about overheating risks were about to be scrutinized. Derek's face paled slightly. He motioned to a supervisor. "Get them. Quickly. They'll see it's not a big deal." The supervisor hesitated, fear in his eyes. Malik had kept these logs because he believed in safety, not because he was trying to prove anything. But now, his quiet diligence was about to challenge Derek's authority in front of the auditors. One of the auditors flipped through the logs, eyebrows rising. "These reports are detailed. Frequent warnings about overheating and misaligned belts." She looked up at Derek. "Why weren't these issues addressed?" Derek's voice shook slightly. I wasn't aware. I didn't think." The auditors exchanged glances. Malik felt a surge of quiet satisfaction mixed with fear. He had been right, but the risk was higher now. If Derek tried to spin the story, he could twist it against Malik. Malik realized the factory wasn't just in danger physically anymore. It was in danger of corporate collapse. Every decision, every oversight, every ignored warning could cost more than production delays. He stepped back into the shadows, careful not to draw attention, but his eyes scanned the machines. Sparks still flickered dangerously. Alarms blared intermittently. Derek was sweating, flustered, losing control of the floor. The auditors looked back at him, then to the logs, and finally at Derek. Their expressions hardened. Malik knew the moment of reckoning had arrived. Malik felt every eye on him. The factory seemed to shrink around his small frame as he stepped forward from the shadows. Sparks still hissed from the machines, alarms blaring, workers frozen in fear. Derek's face went pale. The arrogant composure he had worn all morning was gone. The lead auditor's eyes locked on Malik. "Are you the one who submitted these reports?" she asked calmly. Malik swallowed. Yes, ma'am. I slowed the lines to prevent the machines from overheating. I made notes whenever I noticed potential failures. Derek's jaw dropped. You what? You slowed the line? Without permission? Malik met his gaze evenly. I did what I had to. If the lines had run at full speed, a major failure was imminent. I warned management multiple times. The auditor flipped through the logs with rapid efficiency. Mr. Langford, these warnings were documented. Repeatedly. How were they ignored? Derek stammered. I thought the issues were minor. The line, the numbers. His voice faltered under the auditor's gaze. Workers began murmuring among themselves. Some whispered. He was right. Malik was trying to protect us. The tension on the floor shifted. Fear of Derek's wrath was replaced by disbelief at his negligence. Malik's hands tightened slightly. His chest ached with the weight of responsibility he had carried silently for years. Every skipped warning, every overlooked note, every small act of courage that had prevented disaster was finally visible. But this was bigger than him now. The auditor's questions hinted at corporate liability. Derek's arrogance might cost lives. Step forward. The lead auditor said firmly, "Explain exactly what you observed and the steps you took to prevent failure." Malik nodded and moved closer to control panel. Sparks flared higher. A hiss of steam cut through the air. He gestured to the overheated machines. These belts were misaligned. The regulators were faulty. If we hadn't slowed production, one of these machines would have blown, and someone could have been seriously injured. A wave of murmurs ran through the floor. Derek's face turned red, then pale, then a flush of panic settled across his features. He opened his mouth, but no words came. For the first time, authority had failed him. One of the auditors turned to Derek sharply. "Why were these warnings ignored? Did you consider the risk to your employees?" Derek's lips pressed into a thin line. I didn't realize. Malik felt a subtle shift in the room. Co-workers looked at him with a mix of awe and relief. Even the junior workers, previously frozen in fear, now seemed emboldened. The man they had underestimated for years, the quiet, diligent worker, was suddenly the one holding the truth in his hands. But the situation was far from safe. Sparks still flew. Steam hissed. The machines groaned under strain. Derek's panic could trigger a dangerous reaction, and Malik had no control over the reckless actions of others. The auditors whispered among themselves, pointing to sections of the logs Malik had kept meticulously. Malik realized the factory was on the brink, not just physically, but legally. One wrong decision by Derek now could escalate into a full-blown disaster, putting everyone in danger. Malik's pulse quickened. He glanced at the machines, then at Derek. This wasn't over. The arrogance, the lies, the risk, it all hung over the factory like a storm cloud, ready to break. Malik led the auditors carefully toward the main machines, sparks still flickering along overheated belts. Workers had cleared a cautious path, eyes wide, breaths held. Derek Langford followed reluctantly, trying to maintain some shred of authority, but Malik could see the panic creeping into his every movement. "This is it," Malik said, voice steady. "If we had run the line at full speed, these belts would have snapped, the regulators would have failed, and the whole section could have caught fire. People could have been hurt. Seriously." One auditor, clipboard in hand, nodded gravely. "Show us exactly how you managed it, step by step." Malik pointed to the gauges, the bolts, the control levers, recounting every adjustment he had made over the past months. His explanation was calm, precise, and undeniable. Sparks leapt again, and the hum of the machine seemed almost to punctuate his words. Derek's face went from red to pale as the auditors began nodding in understanding. You slowed the line," he stammered. "Without telling me?" "Yes," Malik replied, voice firm. "Because if I hadn't, someone could have been injured. I did my job. You ignored repeated warnings. And now, it's clear that your negligence put everyone at risk." The lead auditor turned to Derek, her tone cold and commanding. "Mr. Langford, these reports were submitted for months. Every warning was documented. You chose to ignore them. Explain to this floor, explain to these employees why you failed them." Derek opened his mouth, but no words came. Sweat ran down his temples. Workers in the background began whispering, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Others muttered, "He's been lying all along." Malik took a step forward, voice rising so everyone could hear. "I've worked here quietly for 14 years. I've followed every rule, warned every time a machine was unsafe, and yet I was fired publicly, humiliated in front of everyone. Not because I failed, but because Derek needed someone to blame for his own incompetence." A collective gasp spread to the factory floor. Derek's shoulders slumped as realization hit him. The workers, the auditors, even the supervisors now understood the full scope of his failure. One junior worker, finally finding courage, spoke up. "Malik saved us. We would have been in serious danger if he hadn't slowed the machines." The auditors recorded every word. Derek tried to speak again, but Malik raised a hand. "No, let this moment be clear. Accountability matters. You were supposed to protect us, not humiliate and endanger us." The lead auditor stepped forward. "Effective immediately, Derek Langford will be suspended pending further review. Malik Adeyemi is reinstated and commended for exemplary diligence and bravery." A cheer erupted among the workers. Relief, pride, and vindication swept through the floor. Malik felt the weight of humiliation lift, replaced by quiet satisfaction and deep emotional closure. Derek's face was ashen. He had been publicly exposed, his arrogance shattered, his authority stripped away. The humiliation he had inflicted on Malik was now mirrored back in a far stronger, socially visible way. Malik looked around at his colleagues, seeing respect, trust, and gratitude reflected in their eyes. He took a deep breath. Sometimes, the quiet ones are the ones keeping everything together. It's not about being loud. It's about doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. The auditors nodded approvingly. Derek remained frozen, surrounded by the people whose trust he had broken. Malik returned to his station, steady hands adjusting the gauges, calm and dignified. The factory hummed with renewed order, and a lesson everyone would remember. Malik's courage, integrity, and patience had triumphed. Public accountability had restored justice, teaching a moral lesson. True diligence and moral courage will always outshine arrogance and cruelty. If this story touched your heart, like and subscribe for more powerful stories of courage, justice, and unexpected reversals. And don't forget, comment where you're watching from. Your support helps keep these stories coming.